Booktube. So today I am doing the mid-year mood tag. This was created by Monae over at Life is Monae. So I'll leave her channel link and her original video in the description. But basically it's not so much a tag, there aren't questions you have to answer. The idea is to just talk about some of the authors that you've been loving midway throughout this year. And I just love that it's really free and open to discuss whatever I want to talk about. And although I do like doing tag videos, I also like doing videos like this one. So I'm super excited to get into it. Alright, so the first author I want to talk about is Angie Thomas, who is the author of The Hate U Give, On the Come Up, and a writing journal called Find Your Voice, a guided journal for writing your truth. Anyone who's ever read Angie Thomas's writing style just knows how good it is. The writing style doesn't really jump up at you. It's not really poetic or uses a lot of metaphors, but it's just so simple, and it gets the point across in such an effective way. And she's also just a master storyteller. She creates these amazing characters that just are so deeply flawed, but also so teenage. Her main characters are just so good. They're not perfect. They get mad at other characters when they're supposed to get mad. They're pretty iffy in the way that most people actually are. Even her side characters don't fall off. Something interesting about storytelling and the human experience is that when we think of someone else, we think of them as like our friend. So say you have a friend named Mike. That's your friend Mike. But that person, Mike, thinks of you as their friend. And so in stories, sometimes the main protagonist is the only one who has a real story. But in Angie Thomas's stories, every single character, the side characters, the ones that we only see for like a couple of pages, all have their own stories, their own dialects, their own way of speaking, their own biases, their own perspectives. And they're all just so deeply fascinating and real. And anyone who's also ever read an Angie Thomas book will also know that her families are amazing. She is the YA master of writing amazing families, partly because most young adult books don't even have families. But nevertheless, the moms are just the way moms are, the dads are just the way dads are, and you could just really see the family dynamic and how real and how much work Angie Thomas really puts into writing. And she also writes her books a little bit like poetry, really taking a lot of time into the metaphors that you don't really see on the surface. I remember I was reading The Hate U Give, and the main character, Star, has a rose garden. And if you know anything about poetry, there's this famous poem called The Rose That Stood Up in Concrete or something. I'll leave a link to my Goodreads review in the description, but basically if you read that entire, just something that you think would just be a simple planting a rose garden really has so much meaning, and it's really interesting to see the progression of the rose garden in relation to Star's story, and just like little things like that just make the stories that much richer. And that's why I was really excited to get this book, because she really takes us through a lot of the craft of writing, and I just cannot wait to use it. But yeah, Angie Thomas also talks about a lot of political and important issues, and that's also why she is so good. But yeah, I think I just went on a little rant. But yeah, Angie Thomas is so good. Okay, so the next author we have on this list is Ransom Riggs, who is the author of the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series, which starts with Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Hollow City, and Library of Souls, and then it goes on to A Map of Days and the Conference of the Birds, which I do not own. I've read A Map of Days, and it was so good. I don't know why I don't own it, and I'm super excited to get into Conference of Birds, even though most people did not like it. So going into this series, I didn't really know what to expect. Obviously, it is so popular, and Jessie the Reader just raved about it so much. So I'm super excited, and it did not disappoint me. In this book, you could definitely tell that Ransom Riggs is trying to be John Green, especially because they are pretty close friends. He does have a really good poetic writing style. And although it can be a little over the top at times, it still is a lot of fun to read, and it's just so poetic and so metaphoric that I just love it. I think it complements the story so much. In this book, there are so many characters, so he obviously couldn't develop all of them as much as he might have wanted to, but they still all have their separate like personality. Obviously their powers, their peculiarities also really define who they are. And it's just really interesting to see like the correlation between their powers and their personalities, because I feel like there is a way you could like metaphorically look at it. Really, you could just tell that Ransom Riggs is having so much fun writing the story. If you do not know, the Miss Peculiar series is based off of these photos he gets at like flea markets, and that's where he gets his characters, that's where he gets his world, that's probably where he gets his plot points. And you could just tell that he doesn't really have too much of an outline going in. I can just see him going to flea markets, just be like, all right, I need a good photograph. I need this third scene that's going to set everything. And that's why at times there's like not a photograph for like 50 pages. And then some other times they're like a photograph every other page. But the photos just add another visually appealing element to the story. And it is a very good series that I highly recommend. Jacob is like your average YA protagonist. He's kind of flawed. He's wise beyond his years. He's very kind. And he just always seems to know how to do the right thing when it matters the most. And while I don't have a problem with that, the Miss Peregrine series is just so coincidental. They'll be in this hard situation that there's literally no way to get out of, and that one of them should at least die from. But they somehow find a way to get out of it every single time. Whether it's someone finding a new power they didn't know they have, or like the coincidental back door that they find burrowed in somewhere. If you're looking for like great YA literature, I wouldn't really look to this series. It's not metaphoric. There's not really anything beyond the surface. But if you're just looking for a fun, poetic ride with some amazing characters and thrilling adventure, I highly recommend this series. And when you get to the fourth book, lots of people are iffy on it because he kind of brings up a plot point that wasn't really there, and he didn't really need to continue it, but he just does it so well. And I just love that book so much because we got a new side to it, and a lot of the deeper plot points that we didn't really get explored in the original series was explored in depth, and I just loved it for that. But yeah, I just keep on ranting about these authors. This was a really good tag, but yeah, highly recommend Ransom Riggs. And if you're asking how I read Map of Days but don't own it, and I didn't get it from the library, my best friend is a huge fan of the Miss Peregrine series, and so whenever I asked him for it, he would just provide me with the next book because he's just like that. And I think I actually have the fifth book that I still need to read, and I'm super excited to get into it, even though, as I said before, lots of people did not like it. Alright, so I think for this one, I have to mention authors that I've read more than one book for. And I've read more than one book from Rowell, who is getting an adaptation for Eleanor Park. So when I read Eleanor Park, I don't know why I'm going into a tangent like this, I liked it. It was solid. It was a really good romance, and the characters were just so real. But then I watched Sarah's video. I don't know what her channel is called, but I'll leave the link to the video in the description. And it was like a half-hour long video that basically just talked about like how Eleanor Park is racist. And I highly recommend it. Please go watch it. And it just made me think about the book in a whole different way, and that's why I love Booktube, because we have so many different perspectives on books. And while I may not see anything problematic, someone who actually goes through those experiences can see something in that book that just they don't like. And I don't remember much about that video, so I'm going to have to rewatch it because it was just so important. But I do remember that she was talking about how Park is such a generic last name that she made into a first name. Again, I'm going to have to go rewatch it. But I think she was really stereotypical with how she made Park diverse without really doing much research. But I have read 2 books from her this year. I've read Eleanor Park and Fangirl, which I loved. It was so good. Highly recommend it. I don't think there's any other author that I've read more than 2 books from. That will be changed soon because I'm reading the Starless Sea, which is another book by her Morgenstern. Ooh, I've read the entire Hunger Games series, including the prequel. I don't know how I forgot about that, but you guys know what the Hunger Games series is about. I don't know why I haven't explained any of the books I talked about. I don't know why I didn't do that. But yeah, Suzanne Collins' writing is just so intricately plotted. Like, I think there's this thing where she like makes every book 3 parts, and every part has 26 chapters, and she just really goes into the 3-act structure meticulously. Well, normally I don't like that, and I don't really like doing that in my writing. She just does it so well, and the characters are just so well developed. The plot lines are well developed. There's just really not much to say about this book other than tell you to read it. And also go subscribe to Peyton Reads because she's the Hunger Games person on Booktube. But yeah, if you want to go watch me read the entire Hunger Games series in 24 hours, I'll leave the link to the video up here because you can really see all of my thoughts in that video as they came. But one thing I do have to say to update that video is in that video, I was Team Gale. Hold up, I am now Team PETA you can also thank Peyton Reed for that. So in Monday's video, she also talked about some authors that she only read one book from. So I'm going to mention two of my new favorite authors, and the first of that is David Yoon, who is the author of one of my all-time favorite books, Frankly in Love. This book is the only one that's ever made me cry. Like The Fault in Our Stars didn't do that. None of the book has ever done that, because the plot twist in this book and what happened to one of the main characters just came so unexpectedly. Like, we're just chugging along and then all of a sudden, bam, like something comes out of nowhere and you just have to tear up. Before that, this book is just so good, especially for a debut. The writing style is kind of a mockery of itself. Like, it doesn't want to be good, but it is good. I don't know how to explain it, but it's interesting. You have to read the book to really find out for yourself. Like, the book starts with, senior year is begun. Is begun sounds cooler than the more normal has begun. Who starts a book like that in 2020 in young adult literature? But somehow this book just pulled it off with some amazing characters. And Frank's perspective is just so raw. And although I didn't see the plot twist coming, I know most people did. I just appreciate this book more because I didn't see it coming. That's not really something that I recommend it for, because you could probably see what's going to happen. But it's just such a great story. And it's just told so well. There are scenes in this book that you will never forget. The characters just develop so well, and it just really feels like a picturesque movie. Feels like a Pixar movie for some reason. It's just so good, and it somehow integrates important questions of culture and race and education while also developing a really good love story. It has everything that I love, and there was no reason for me not to love it. I know this book originally got popular, obviously, because the author David Yoon is the husband of a very popular author, Nicole Yoon, who I've only read one book from, and that was Everything, which I liked until the ending, and I will say that till the end of time. And I really just love this book more than Everything. So if that doesn't make you go read it, I don't know what will. And the last author I want to talk about today is V.E Schwab, who is the author of A Darker Shade of Magic, which is one of my all-time favorite books, and A Conjuring of Shadows, which was gifted to me by Nikki. So thank you so much, and I just cannot wait to read this book. I don't want to say too much about this book because I'm going to film a review fully about this book, so I don't want to say all of my thoughts right now. I didn't know what to expect going into this book, and everyone on Booktube just loved V.E Schwab and all of her books, so I had really high expectations, just didn't know where, like, what I liked about this book was going to lie, but it was everywhere. I loved everything about this book, from the characters and Lila, who is just such a sassy character, and I just loved reading from her perspective, and I just loved seeing her and Kel's interactions. The world was just so intricate and detailed, and just everything about this book is just so good. And like I've been saying about most of the authors and the books on the list, you just have to go read them to really find out, and I think that's the beautiful thing about books. But yeah, V.E Schwab is the last author on this list. Hi, Vera. I did it.
Okay, now shut up.
No, I still have to film my outro. Alright guys, so that was the mid-year mood book tag. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. Comment down below some authors that you've been loving this year. Subscribe. I post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And I will see you next time with another video. Bye!